Hello, this is Let's Talk About Myths, baby, and I am your host, Liv. And today I am back with another episode of Statius's Thebaid. But before we dive back in, just like a little note, because you know me, like I'm feeling the guilt for not giving too much new content, or rather too much new content for me. We had those incredible 2 chaos episodes, so I feel like I didn't do anything, but that was the whole point, which is that I have incredible people helping me manage this workload. But I was so excited to have those 2 episodes. I mean, everyone really knocked it out of the park. I'm so glad we've got Megaera doing more, and Christy Vogler is the biggest joy, and chaos is just... I mean, as you all know, the whole point. I really haven't watched it all, but what I've seen, I absolutely loved. I'm now finding it like I can enjoy it without feeling like it's work, but it's still, because it's so beautifully done and like actually interacting with the mythology in a way that I find interesting. Now I'm like, well, I have to like pay too close attention for my poor anxiety and ADHD brain. But I'm so thrilled that they created those episodes. If you haven't listened to those yet, please do. We would love to hear your thoughts as well. I'm trying to bring Megaera into more things. Similarly, it's also nearing the time for the birthday Q&A episodes that I have made a habit of doing. So if you have any questions, thoughts, just like topics you want me and Megaera to talk about, put them or submit them to us, please. It is mythsbaby.com/questions. Megaera and I are going to be recording one together soon. So anything like that, and like history questions, send those in. Megaera is better at that side. So we're going to make for like a really good pair when we answer those together. So answer or submit those, please. And otherwise, we have some great conversations coming up for you. I'm back from being in Greece for a month, most of which was 2 back-to-back group trips, which was so incredible. And I'm so glad I have all of these listeners who want to do this with me. And like, God, it's so cool that this is my job. And also, your girl's an introvert and was an anxious bitch the whole time. So it is also so nice to be home and like decompressing. But the other exciting thing that is ongoing right now is, of course, that I am in the midst of writing a children's retelling of the Odyssey, which is like the coolest thing that's happened to me in a really long time. But also we are trying to do it really quickly so that it can come out before the movie, which means I have to do the whole thing before October. So you're going to we're going to be playing with some episodes, playing with, how we're doing this, lots of conversations, probably a good amount of these readings because they're things I can do without scripting or too much pre-planning that I don't have the time or bandwidth for at the moment. But otherwise, if there are questions you have, these topics that you want to be covered, the more ideas we have, the easier this will be while, we're getting all of this going, and while we're still building out the Mnemosyne network and collective and all of that. So we would just love to hear from you all in any kind of form, I guess is what I'm saying. So mythsbaby.com/questions. Now back to Statius. Remember, Statius is a Roman author writing about a distinctly Greek myth. So this is a really late epic, but what's really interesting about it is that it tells stories from Greek myth that we know were these like enormous, potentially epic poem level stories, but which don't survive for us. So in some cases, we have a handful of plays that tell bits and pieces of the story, but generally there's no epic from the ancient Greece that survives that tells this, but we know that it existed. It's quite similar to The Fall of Troy by Quintus Murnius, because that is another thing where we know that this was like a late epic based on something a lot earlier, and that really makes it interesting all on its own. But I'm telling you, I'm reminding you, because there's going to be some of that stuff that stands out that's like, this feels off, and it's probably because it was written during the Roman time period, but about much more ancient Greek myth. That also means that there are the Roman names used for gods. We can get into the intricacies of how that works later. But for now, if you are confused, there is a link in the episode's description to like a real basic, it's very old, I haven't updated it in forever, but it's a real basic idea of Roman to Greek names, just if you are thrown in that way. Otherwise, where we last left off, we had that whole incredible, wild, utterly tragic like side quest with Hypsipyle, and then the introduction of the Nemean Games, which were one of, I believe there were 4 of the biggest athletic games that happened in the ancient world. And this is this late epic mythologizing those origins, which is super cool. And also sports. There were so many sports last episode. And this one, I believe we're returning to what's been going on, which is these 2 brothers, one king of Thebes who was supposed to give up his throne but refused. The other has gone to Argos to get help taking the throne from his brother. It's a lot of drama. It's Eteocles. I'm going to be sure and not Google. Eteocles is the one still in Thebes, and Polynices is working with allies elsewhere to take him down. Also, remember, they're the sons of Oedipus and Jocasta. It's a messy, messy family. This is The Thebaid by Statius, translated by J.H. Mausley, Book 7. As thus they tarried at the outset of the Tyrian war, Jupiter turned on the Pelasgians his wrathful gaze and shook his head, at the movement of which the high stars tremble, and Atlas cries that his shoulders' burden is increased. Then thus did he address the speedy Tegean. Go, boy, and swiftly, leaping, glide through the north as far as the Bistonian dwellings and the snowy constellations of the pole, where the Parnassian feeds her ocean-barred fires on storm clouds and heaven's own rain. And there, whether Mars has laid aside his spear and draws breath again, though repose be hateful to him, or whether, as I think, he has his arms and his trumpets, whereof he never tires, and is wantoning in the blood of his beloved tribe, haste, you deliver the angry message of his father, and spare nothing. Surely, long since was he bidden to inflame the Anakian host, and all that the rock of Isthmus holds apart the thunderous wrath of echoing Malia encompasses. Yet, scarce has their army passed the boundary of their walls, and they hold sacred festival. One would deem they had returned from war, so keen is their applause as they attend the rites of an offended tomb. Is this your rage, Gradivus? The round discus crashes and reverberates, and the Eubalian gloves meet in the boxing match? But if he really has that boasted fury and mad joy in battle, then ruthlessly will he lay the innocent towns in ashes, wielding sword and fire, and strike the peoples to the ground while they implore the Thunderer and exhaust the miserable world. Now he is lenient in warfare, and he grows slack, though I am angry. But if he hastens not the fight and hurls not more swiftly than the word of my command the Danaan ranks against the Tyrian walls, with not cruel do I threaten him, let his power be all for kindliness and goodness, and his ungoverned rage be slackened to quietness and peace. Let him return me his horses and his sword, nor have right of bloodshed any more. I will look upon the earth and bid all cease from strife. For the Ogygian war, Tritonia will suffice. He had spoken, and the Calenian was drawing nigh the fields of Thrace. Down gliding from the gate of the northern pole, he is driven this way and that by the region's everlasting tempest. and the serried storm clouds ranged athwart the sky, and first blasts of Aquilo. The pouring hail rattles upon his golden robe, and ill does the shady hat of Arcadia protect him, where he observes barren forests, the sacred haunts of Mars, and he shudders as he looks, where on the far slopes of Hymus his savage mansion is ringed by 1,000 Furies. The walls are of iron structure, iron portal bears upon the threshold, the roof is carried by columns wrought of iron. The rays of Phoebus are weakened when they meet it. The very light fears that dwelling, and its murky glare dismays the stars. Fit sentinels hold watch there. From the outer gate wild passion leaps, and blind mischief and angers flushed red, and pallid fear, and treachery lurks with hidden sword, and discord, holding a two-edged blade. Threatenings innumerable make clamor in the court. Sullen valor stands in the midst, and rage exultant and armed death with blood-stained visage are seated there. No blood but that of wars is on the altars, no fire but snatched from burning cities. All around were spoils of every land, and captured peoples adorned the temple's high front, and fragments of iron-wrought gates, and ships of war, and empty chariots, and faces ground by chariot wheels, yes, almost even their groans. Truly every form of violence and wounds. Himself was everywhere to behold, but nowhere with softened looks. In such wise has Vulcan, with divine skill, portrayed him. Not yet had the adulterer, made manifest by the sun's bright beams, atoned his shameful union in the bed's grasping chains. Scarce had the winged Maenalian begun to seek the temple's lord. Lo, earth trembles, and horned Hebrus bellows and stays his torrent's flow. Then all the war steeds that troubled the valley sped foaming over the frightened meads. Sure sign of his approach, and the gates, barred with everlasting adamant, flew open. Glorious in Hyrcanian gore, he himself comes riding by. Far and wide the dire bespattered changes the aspect of the fields. Behind him are borne spoils and weeping throngs. Forest and deep snows give him room. With bloody hands dark Bellona guides the team and plies them hard with her long spear. The offspring of Kylene grew stiff with terror at the sight, and cast down his eyes. Yes, even the father himself would feel awe were he present, and would forego his threats, nor command so sternly. First spoke the Lord of War. What decree of Jove, what message do you bring from the vast heaven? For not of your own will you come, O brother, to this clime and to my wintry storms. You whose home is dewy Maenalus and the kindlier air of warm Lachesis. He reports his father's resolve, nor does Mars long delay, but drives forward his flying steeds, all panting as they were and sweating together beneath the yoke, himself indignant that the Greeks were sluggish to begin the war. The father on high beheld, and abating now his anger, let his head sink with slow weight, as when the east wind sinks to rest and leaves the waters it has vanquished. Yet even in calm the waters swell, and the departed storm yet rolls the surface of the deep. Not yet have the vessels all their tackling set, nor do the mariners draw a full breath again. The funeral rites had brought an end to the unarmed combats, but the crowds were not gone away, when amid universal silence the hero Adrastus poured wine upon the ground and propitiated the ashes of Archemorus. Grant, little one, that this day may be renewed. At many a triennial feast, let not maimed Pelops prefer to seek Arcadian altars, or knock at Elian temples with his ivory arm. Nor the serpent rather glide to the Castalian shrine, nor its own shade of the pine groves of Lechium. We refuse you, O child, to sad Avernus, and link these mournful rites with the undying stars, we who hurry now to arms. But if you will grant us to overthrow the Boeotian dwellings with the sword, then a mighty temple shall exalt you. Then shall you be a god indeed, nor through Anakian cities only shall your worship spread, but Thebes also in her captivity shall swear by your name. So vowed the chief of all, so vowed each warrior for himself. Already Mars with forward straining steeds was trampling the Epherian shores where Acrocorinthus raises its summit into the airy heights and casts his shadow over the twin seas in turn. Then he orders Panic, one of his fearful train, to go before the horses. None more skilled than he to insinuate gasping terror and to steal courage from the heart. Voices and hands innumerable has the monster, and aspects to assume at will. All persuasive is he, and his onslaughts drive cities mad with horror. If he suggests that there are two suns, or that the stars are falling, or the ground heaving, or ancient forests marching down from the hills, alas, the wretches believe that they have seen it. A new and cunning trick was he then devising. He raises a phantom dust upon the plain of Nemea. Astounded, the chiefs behold above their heads the darkening cloud. He swells the tumult in unsubstantial clamor and imitates the clank of armor and the tread of horses' hooves, and scatters the terrible war cry upon the wandering breezes. Their hearts leap in fear, and the crowd wait, muttering in suspense. Where does this noise come from? Unless our ears betray us, but why stand the heavens in a cloud of dust? Surely the Ismenian soldiery have not dared so far. Yes, it's even so. They come, but is Thebes then so bold? Must they wait, think you, for us to pay rites to sepulchres? Thus panic in their bewildered minds, and many a different countenance does he assume amid their ranks. Now is he one of 1,000 men of Pisa, now a Pylian, now a Laconian by his look, and he swears the foe are near, and dismays the host with vain alarm. To their terror, naught is false, but when undisguised he fell upon the distracted warriors, and, borne on a swift whirlwind around the heights of the sacred vale, thrice brandished his spear, thrice smote his steeds, thrice clashed his shield upon his breast. To arms, they cry, each snatching in wild disorder his neighbors or his own, and they seize other helms, and force strange steeds beneath the yoke. In every heart burns the mad lust of death and slaughter. Nothing hinders their fiery rage. In furious haste they atone for their delays. Such a clamor fills the shore when the wind is rising, and men are leaving the port. Everywhere sails are bellying and loose ropes flapping, and now the oars are afloat, and every anchor too upon the surface, and now from mid-sea they are gazing back at the land they love and at the friends left astern. Bacchus had seen the Anakian cohorts gather swiftly for the march. With a groan he turned towards the Tyrian city, and he recalls the home that nurtured him and his father's fires, with sadness in his heart and dismay upon his bright countenance. Disordered were his locks and garlands, the thyrsus was fallen from his hand, the untouched grapes from off his horns. Tearful then and unsightly as he was, with disheveled robe, he stood before Jupiter, reigning then by chance alone in heaven, in such guise as had never before been seen. Yet his father knew well the cause, and spoke in supplication. Do you destroy your own Thebes, O worthy father of the gods? Is your spouse so cruel? Do you not pity that well-loved land, that hearth you did deceive, those ashes I hold dear? Be it so. Once you did hurl unwilling fire from the clouds, so I believe, but lo, a second time are you bringing deadly fire upon the land, without oath of Styx or cunning paramour's request? What limit will you set? Are you my father and incensed against me? Kindly, and yet you do wield the thunderbolt. Not in such mood would you go to Danae's city, or the Parasian grove, or Amyclae, Leda's home. Am I then in truth the worst scorned of all your sons? Yet am I surely he who was a sweet burden for your carrying, for whom you deigned to once open more life's threshold, and the way once closed against me, and the period of the womb. Moreover, my people are unwarlike and rarely schooled in camps, and know my warfare only, my battles, the twining of garlands in their hair and twirling to the frenzied pipe. They fear the wands that brides wield, the wars that matrons wage. How should they endure the bray of trumpets and the work of Mars, who makes, behold him, such furious preparation? What if he were to lead your own Curities to the fight, and bid them decide the issue with their guileless targets? No more. It is hated Argos you choose. Was there no other foe? Cruel, O father, is our peril, but more cruel your command. We pay the penalty to make rich my stepmother's Mycenae. I yield, but my ruined people's sacred rights and aught that my mother left when she brought forth, but for the tomb. Where must we depart? To Thrace and the forest of Lycurgus, or shall I flee a captive to that India where I once did triumph? Grant the outlaw some resting place. My brother could make Delos fast, Leto's rocky home, nor do I grudge him that, and entrust it to the lowest depths. The Tritonian removed the hostile waters from her beloved citadel. Myself I have seen Epiphas lording it over the eastern races, and remote Kylene and Minoan Ida fear not the trumpet's blast. Why do our altars so offend you? Here, since my own influence must already yield, here were those knights of Hercules' begetting, and the favored flame of wandering Nycteus. Here was the race of Tyr, and the bull more fruitful than my lightning brand. Protect at least Agenor's offspring. Smiling at his jealousy, his father raised him quietly to his embrace from where he knelt, with arms outstretched, and in turn makes tranquil answer. This comes not by my consort's will, as you think, my son, nor am I thus a slave to her fierce demands. It's fate's unchanging wheel that ordains our destiny. Ancient causes are leading, now late in time, to war. Whose anger sinks so soon to rest, who is more sparing of human blood? The heavens and my eternal age long dwelling witness how often I lay by the whirling thunderbolt, how rarely these fires have mastery of the earth. Unwillingly indeed, though they had suffered great wrongs that cried for vengeance, did I deliver the Lapithai to Mars, or ancient Calydon to Diana for destruction. Sad is the loss, and it's irksome to give so many new lives for old, and animate afresh so many bodies. But for the seed of Labdacus and the sons of Pelops' line, then am I slow to destroy. You know myself, to leave unsaid the Dorian crimes, how ready is Thebes to accuse the gods. You too, but my former anger is appeased, and I will hold my peace. Pentheus was stained by no father's blood, nor bore the guilt of defiling his mother's bed and begetting brothers, yet he filled your haunts with the mangled fragments of his limbs. Where then were these tears, this eloquent appeal? But it is to glut no private wrath that I sacrifice the sons of Oedipus. Earth and heaven demand it, and natural piety and injured faith and the laws of the avenging powers themselves. Be not distressed for your city. Not at this time have I decreed that the Ionian state shall fall. A darker age shall come hereafter, and others to avenge. Now royal Juno shall complain. He, hearing this, was composed in mind and aspect, and when rose gardens droop beneath a fiery scorching sun and cruel south wind, should the day clear and western breezes refresh the sky, all their beauty returns. The blooms open resplendent, and the unsightly branches are decked in their proper glory. Long since has the messenger brought sure tidings of discovery to the astounded ears of Eteocles, announcing that the Grecian chiefs are on the march at the head of a long array and soon will be nigh on the Aeonian fields. Wheresoever they advance, all tremble and pity Thebes. He reports the family and fame of each and their warlike deeds. The king, hiding his fear, demands to be told and hates the teller. Then he decides to send a stirring message to his allies and take the measure of his own resources. Mars, so it pleased Jove, had stirred up Aeonia and Euboea and the neighboring lands of Phocis. Far flies the rapid signal from town to town. They march forth their hosts and display themselves in arms. They move upon the plain that, doomed to war, spreads near the city and awaits the fury of the fray. They meet no foe as yet, but matrons in an excited throng ascend the walls and thence show to their children the glittering armor and their father's formidable arms. Far removed upon a lonely tower and still withheld from the eyes of the people, Antigone shrouds in a black veil her tender cheeks. With her was an attendant, Laius' squire of old, whom the royal maid reveres. She first addressed him, "Is there hope, O father, that these standards will hold the Pelasgians in check? We hear that all the tribes of Pelops descend upon us. Recount, I pray, the princes and their foreign bands, for I see what standards our own, Menicius, and what troops our Creon has under command, and how Haemon, with towering crest of brazen sphinx, marches out from the mighty Haemolian gates." So spoke artless Antigone, and old Phorbas thus replied. "Dryas, look, leads forth 1,000 archers from cold Tanagra's hill. He whose snow-white armor bears a trident and a firebrand rudely wrought in gold is for valor the true son of exalted Orion. Heaven forged the ill omen of his father and chaste Diana's ancient grudge. Ocalia and Medion join our camps and declare for our monarch's cause, and thickly wooded Nyssa and Thisbe, echoing with Dion's tuneful birds. Next is Eurymedon, who counterfeits the pastoral arms and horsehair crest of his father, Faunus, with club and leaves of pine. Terrible is he in the woodland, and such, I ween, will he be in bloody conflict. Erythrae, rich in flocks, is with us, and so are they who hold Scolus and Etonius, set thick with arduous ridges, and the brief strand of Hele, and the proud folk of Scenis, Atalanta's home, who, till the famous plain her feet imprinted, they brandish, as of wont, the long ashen Macedonian shafts and targes that scarce can ward off savage blows. But lo, the Neptunian folk of Inachestus rush on with shouts, they whom Mycalesos nourishes beneath her pines, and Meles, Pallas's stream, and Gargaphile with the waters loved of Hecate, and they on whose young wheat Hilariotus looks jealously, overgrowing the glad cornlands with too abundant grass. Unfashioned tree trunks are their weapons, and lions' empty jaws their helms. The curving bark affords them bucklers. These, as they lack a king, our own Amphion, look, is leading. It's easy to recognize him, O maid, conspicuous, with a lyre and our ancestral bull upon his helm. A blessing on your courage, youth. He is ready to go where swords are thickest and protect with naked breast the walls he loves. You two, come to add your strength to ours, you Heliconian throng, and you, Permessus and Olmius, happy in your tuneful streams, you have armed your unwarlike sons. Now, hardest you, your people exult in strains worthy of their home, such strains as, when pale winter yields, the swans uplift in praise of smiling Stremon. Onward, valiant ones, your praise shall never die, and muses in songs unending shall recount your wars. He had finished when the maiden briefly spoke in turn. But those yonder, what tie of birth unites those brethren? So truly alike are their arms, so rise their helmet peaks into the air together. Would that my brothers had such concord. Smiling, the old man answered her. You are not the first, Antigone, to be so deluded in your seeing. Many have called them brethren, for their years deceive father and son they are, though the fashions of age are all confounded. The nymph Dercetis is in burning passion and shameless lust of wedlock corrupted ere his time the boy Lapithion, still innocent of the marriage bed and unripe for a lover's flames. And soon was born the fair Alatrius, and overtakes his father while still in the flower of youth, and assumes his features and confounds their years. So now they rejoice in the false name of brethren, but more the father, for the past has brought him pleasure as well as the years to come. 300 knights does the father marshal for the fray, and the son as many more. These, they say, have left scant Glycias and Coronia, once their husbandsmen, Coronia rich in harvest, Glycias fertile in the grape. But rather look at Hypsias, casting his shadow far over his lofty steeds, his left side guarded by the sevenfold bull's hide of his shield, his breast by triply woven mail. His breast for no fear has he for the back. His spear is an ancient glory of the woodland. Once thrown, it always cleaves armor and flesh alike, and his hand never fails its aim. Atropos is deemed his father, a father worthy to behold, when in full torrent he sweeps past the wreck of bridges, or in swollen wrath and vengeance for his maiden daughter he lashes his waters to fury and scorns the thunderer, her paramour. For they say that Aegina was carried by force from her father's stream and hidden in the embrace of Jove. The river in wild rage prepares fierce war against the stars. Not yet had even the gods such license. In defiant, quenchless anger he stood and strove, nor had he any whose aid he could implore, till, scarce subdued by the threefold lightning of the brand, he yielded. Even yet does the proud flood rejoice from out his heaving banks to pant forth against heavenly fiery ashes, the signs of his dire punishment and Etnian vapors. Such fury shall we marveling see in Hypsias on the Cadmean plain, if but Aegina had happily appeased the thunderer. He leads the men of Itone and Minerva's Alacmonian bands, and those whom Medea furnishes, and Arne rich in grapes, the men who sow the fields of Aulis and of Graeae and verdant Plataea, and subdue Petion with furrows and hold where it is ours. Euripus, whose current ebbs and flows, and you, Anthedon, remotest of our lands, where from the grassy shore Glaucus plunged beneath the waters that summoned him, sea green already in face and hair, and started to behold the fish-tail growing from his waist. They whirl the sling and cleave the zephyrs with the bullets. Their javelins will outstrip fleet arrows. You too, Cephisus, would have sent Narcissus, preeminent in beauty, but already stubborn-hearted boy, he is a pale flower in a Thespian field. You, O father, does lave it with your childless waves. Who could recount to you the troops of Phoebus and of ancient Phocus? Panope, Daulis, Kyparissos, the Lebadia, and Hyampolis that nestles beneath a beetling cliff, the husbandsmen who with their bulls upturn Parnassus' either slope, and Kira and Anamoria, and the woodland of Corycia, and Lilia that sends forth the ice-cold springs of Cephisus, where Python was wont to take his panting thirst and turn aside the river from the sea. On all their helms behold the entwined bay, on all their armor Titios or Delos, or the quivers that the god emptied here in countless slaughter. Their leader is warlike Iphitus, whose father lately slain was Naubolus, son of Hippasus, your friend, most gentle Laius. Still was I holding the chariot reins without thought of ill, when your neck lay mangled by cruel blows beneath the horse's hooves. Would that my blood had flowed there too. His eyes were moistened as he spoke, and all his face grew pale, and sudden sobs checked the free passage of his voice. His ward soothes the trembling old man's friendly heart. He recovers and faintly speaks. O you, my anxious pride and chiefest pleasure, Antigone, it's for you I shamelessly delay my late arriving death, though perchance I must behold the crimes and murders of your house repeated, until I deliver you unharmed and fit for wedlock. That is enough. Then, O fates, let me leave this weary life. But while I am feebly swooning, what mighty champions, Now I see them again, have passed before us. Clonus I numbered not, nor the long-haired sons of Abas, nor your men, rocky Charistus, nor low-lying Egai and lofty Capharius. But now my dimmed sight says, no, and all have halted, while your brother, look, bids the armed hosts be silent. Scarce had the old man ended upon the tower when the prince began from a high mound. Great-hearted chieftains whom I, your leader, would not refuse to obey and fight, a common soldier for my native Thebes. No attempt were mine to stir your zeal, for freely have you rushed to arms and of your own accord taken oath to champion my righteous anger. Nor shall I suffice to praise enough or pay you worthy thanks. The gods in your own victory over the foe will make requital. From friendly peoples are you come to protect a city assailed by no pillaging warrior from foreign shores, no stranger from an alien land, but a native enemy, who, as he marshals his opposing camps, has here a father and a mother and sisters of one blood. Yes, and a brother he had too. Lo, with what guilt you plot destruction everywhere against my father's race, but the Aeonian peoples have come willingly to my aid. Nor, cruel one, am I left to be your victim. What yonder army wills, you too should be feeling. They forbid me to give up the throne. Thus he spoke, and orders all things duly, who are to meet the foe, who to guard the walls, what troops shall lead the van, whom he shall place in mid-array. Even so does a shepherd, while the earth is fresh and rays are shining through the doorways, unfasten the wattled pens. He bids the leaders go first, then follow the crowding ewes. He himself aids those that are with young, and the parents whose udders trail the ground, and bears to their mother's side the failing lambs. Meanwhile, the Danai by day and night and day march under arms. Wrath bears them onward. They scorn repose. Scarce sleep or food delays them. Like a fleeing army, they hasten toward the foe. They heed not the portents that chance. The herald of doom with ominous presage strews thickly in their path, for birds and beasts give awful warnings. Stars also and backward flowing rivers, and the Father thunders against them, and baneful lightnings gleam. Terrifying voices are heard in the shrines and temple gates shut of their own accord. Now it rains blood, now stones. Ghosts suddenly appear, and fathers of old confront them, weeping. Then too did Apollo's oracle at Kira fall silent, and all night through in months unwanted did Eleusis wail, and prophetic Sparta saw in open temples fearful sight the brethren of Amyclae locked in conflict. The Arcadians say that in the silence of the night Lycaon's shade barked madly, and his own Pissa tells that Oenomaus drove over that cruel plain. Achelous, maimed of either horn, was dishonored by the Acarnanian exile. Sad is the image of Perseus, to which Mycenae prays, and downcast is Juno's ivory statue. The rustics tell how mighty Inachus bellowed, and the dweller by the double main, how Theban Palaemon made lament over the whole sea. The Pelopian phalanx hears these warnings, but warlike ardor hinders heavenly counsel and robs them of their terror. Already they were come to your banks, Asopus, and the Boeotian streams. The squadrons dared not cross the hostile river forthwith. By chance, too, he was descending in mighty flood upon the trembling fields. Whether the rain-bringing bow or mountain clouds had given him strength, or whether the river father so purposed and hurled his stream athwart them to forbid their arms. Then fierce Hippomedon, with a great tearing of the bank, thrust down his wavering steed, and supported by reins and trappings shout from midstream to the leaders left behind. Forward, you men! And I will be the first, I warrant you, to lead the attack and break through the Theban ramparts. All fling themselves into the river, ashamed to have but followed. Just so do cattle stand dismayed when the herdsman drives them to an unknown stream. Far distant seems the other bank, and fear stretches wide between. But when the chieftain bull leaps in and making the crossing, then gentler seem the waters and easier to plunge, and the banks seem to draw nearer. Not far from there they mark a ridge and suitable ground for a safe camp, where, too, they can behold the city and the Sidonian towers. The situation pleased them and offered secure retreat upon a high and spreading hill, with open, swelling fields beneath, nor any other mountain near at hand to overlook. No weary toil added long lines of earthworks, for nature herself marvelously favored the spot. Rocks rose to form a rampart, and the shelving earth served for trenches, and 4 chance mounds made bastions. The rest they themselves provide, until all the light had left the hills, and sleep gave rest to weariness. What words could portray the consternation of Thebes? In the face of war's impending doom, dark night racks her with sleepless terror and threatens her with the coming day. Men hurry here and there on the walls. In that awful panic, naught seems guarded or secure enough. No strength is in Amphion's fortress. Rumor announces other foes on every side, and fear yet more and mightier. Yonder they see the Anakian tents and foreign watchfires in their own native hills. Some pray and entreat the gods, others exhort their weapons of war and battle steeds. Others, weeping, embrace the hearts they love and piteously appoint their pyres and funeral honors for the morrow. If their eyes are closed in a brief slumber, they are waging war. Distraught, they now sicken of life, now prize delay. They pray for the light, yet fear its coming. Tisiphone, shaking her twin serpents, goes rioting through either camp. Brother against brother, she inflames, and against both their father. Aroused, he wanders from his secret cell, and implores the Furies and prays for his lost eyes once more. Already had breaking day put out cold Phoebe and the fading stars, while ocean was pregnant with dawning fire, and the sea's expanse, revealed by newborn Titan, was sinking to rest beneath his radiant, panting steeds. Lo, Jocasta, wild-eyed with hoary, unkempt hair falling about her haggard face, her bosom bruised and livid, and in her hand a branch of olive entwined with sable wool, goes forth from the gates in all the mighty majesty of sorrow, like to the most ancient of the Furies. On this side and on that, her daughters, now the better sex, support her as she hastens her aged limbs and would fain go faster than her strength allows. She goes to meet the foe, and baring her breast, she strikes upon the gates, and with tremulous wail prays for admittance. Unbar the road! It is the guilty mother of the war who asks you. Some right to utter curses in this camp have I by virtue of this womb. The squadrons started with alarm, beholding her, and hearing her yet more, and now the messenger sent to Adrastus returns. At his command they receive her, and open a way through the sword's midst. As soon as she saw the Achaean princes, she uttered a fearful cry of rage and grief. You Argive chiefs who will show me the enemy whom I bore, under what helm, tell me, shall I find my son? Thus frantic, she is met by the Cadmean hero, who clasps her to him and sheds tears of joy, and holding her in his arms, consoles her, and ever and anon repeats, Mother, mother, entreating now his beloved sisters, when the aged dame mingles sharp anger with her weeping. Why this pretense of unmanly tears and venerable names to me, O Argive prince? Why do you put your arms around my neck and crush your hated mother against this mail-clad breast? Are you that wandering exile, that hapless stranger, whose heart would you not stir? Far-stretching cohorts await your word, and countless blades glitter at your side. Ah, we unhappy mothers, is this the son whom I wept for day and night? Yet if you had respect for the counsel of your kinsfolk, now, while the armies are silent and natural affection shrinks irresolute from war, I, your mother, command you and entreat. Come with me, and look at least on your country's gods and the homes which soon must burn, and your brother. Why do you look away? Speak to your brother and demand your realm with me now for arbiter. Either he will grant it, or you will resume the sword with better right. Or fear you, lest there be treachery, and I, your mother, purposefully deceive you? Not so wholly has righteousness fled our unhappy house. Scarce should you have to fear if Oedipus led you. Sinful verily was my marrying and bringing forth, but I love you even so. Bitter grief, and even now forgive your fury. But if you do persist so far of your own accord, we give you to the victory, cruel one. Seize your sisters and bind their hands behind them. Load me with chains. Your father shall also be brought here, aged though he be. And now to your sense of shame, you sons of Inachus, I turn my sad appeal. For you have left at home, each of you, little ones and aged parents and tears like these. Believe in a mother's feelings. If my son here has grown dear to you so soon, and I pray he may be dear, what must I feel, Pelasgians? How must this bosom suffer? This might I have borne from Hyrcanian or Odrysian princes, and those whose frenzy surpassed my own. Grant my request, or may I die here with my arms around my son, nor live to see this war. The proud cohorts quailed beneath her words, and one could have seen the warriors' helmets quaking and their armor bedewed with pious tears. As when lions with furious impact have strewn men and weapons on the ground, straightway their wrath abates, and they rejoice to sate their hunger, untroubled, on the captured prey. So the Pelasgians' hearts are swayed and waver, and their fiery greed of battle grows tame. He himself, even before their eyes, turns to kiss now his mother, now Ismene, plain of speech, now Antigone, more tearful in her appeal. And the varied tumult that distracts his mind, the kingdom is forgot. He would fain go, nor does kindly Adrastus forbid him. Then Tydeus, mindful of righteous anger, breaks in upon him. Send me, rather, comrades, who lately made trial of Eteocles' word, though not his brother, send me to face the king, whose boasted peace and honest covenant I yet bear on this breast of mine. Where then was the mother, mediator of peace and honor, when you stayed me that night with such noble welcome? Is it to such intercourse you do drag your son? Take him to that field which reeks yet richly of Theban blood, and richly yet of mine? Will you follow her so far, too soft of heart, alas, and too forgetful of your friends? Forsooth, when bared blades flash all round you in hostile hands, her tears shall lay those swords to rest. Fool that you are, will he send you back to the Argive camp, once safe within his walls and at the mercy of his hatred? Before that, will this lance shake off its point and burgeon, or Inachus and my own Achelous flow backward? But it's gentle speech that you are seeking, and peace amid savage arms. Well, this camp too is open to you, nor has yet merited fear. Or am I suspected? Then I depart and make a present of my wounds. Let him enter here too. Will he find mother and sisters to mediate? But suppose that, utterly defeated, he quits his covenanted realm. Will you surrender it a second time? The troops, swayed by his words, veer round again, as when in a sudden hurricane the south wind, swooping down, wrests from Boreas the mastery of the sea. The rage of battle finds favor once more. Fierce Erinyes seizes the moment and sows the seeds of opening conflict. 2 tigers were straying by Dirce's waters, gentle yoke-fellows whose warlike chariot had once laid waste to the east. But Dionysus, lately triumphant from Erythraean shores, had suffered them to roam in Aeonian fields. The followers of the god, and, as of wont, an aged priest are zealous to adorn them, forgetful now of bloodshed and redolent of Indian herbs, with full-grown shoots and varied clusters of the vine, and deck their spotted hide with bands of purple. And by now the very hills, and even, who would believe it, the cattle loved them, and the lowing heifers ventured near, for no hunger drives them to fell deeds. They take their food from hands ready to feed them, and throw back their terrible heads to quaff the wine outpoured. They wander at peace over the countryside, and whenever with placid gait they come into the city, every home and every temple glows with sacrificial fire, and all believe that Laius himself has entered. These did the Fury touch 3 times each with her snaky lash, and stung them to their former mood of madness. They dash forth, and the fields know them not. As when from opposing tracts of heaven 2 lightning brands burst forth together, and falling trail through the clouds their length of hair, not otherwise do they with rapid course and furious roar bound over the plains. With a mighty spring seize they charioteer Amphiaraus. Nor was it without ill omen that by chance he was driving his master's horses to a neighboring mare. Then assail Taenarian Idas, following, and Aetolian Acamas. The horn-footed steeds flee madly over the fields, until Acontius, kindling at the sight of heroes slain, an Arcadian was he, of wonted valor in the chase, pursued them, now making for their trusted walls with thick-flung darts, and plying many a spear, drove thrice and again the poised javelin through their backs and flanks. But they, with a long trail of streaming blood, bear fainting to the gates the darts that pierce them, and uttering human wails, lean their wounded bodies on the walls they love. One would think the city and its shrines were being plundered, and the Sidonian homes were ablaze with accursed fire. Such clamor arises when the gates are opened. Rather would they that the cradle of great Hercules had perished, or Semele's bower, or Harmonia's bridal chamber. Phegeus, votary of Bacchus, rushes with drawn sword on Acontius, now weaponless and exulting in his 2 victims. The youth of Tegea dash up in tardy succor, but already on the sacred bodies of the beasts the youth lies dead, and sorrowing Bacchus is avenged. The Grecian council, too, is broken up in the sudden tumult of the camp. Jocasta flees through the enemy, already in battle trim. No longer dares she supplicate. They, of late so courteous, now spurn her and her daughters, and Tydeus is quick to use the moment. Away with you, now hope for peace and honest dealing. Surely he could have waited and delayed the outrage till his mother had returned in safety. So speaking, he bares his blade and calls to his comrades, and now fierce shouts are raised, and on every side wrath boils to fever heat. The host assembles in disorder, chiefs are confounded with the common soldiers, and leaders' commands unmarked. Horsemen, infantry, and troops and rapid chariots are intermixed, and an indiscriminate mob urges the rout. Nor is there time to display themselves, nor scan the foe. Then in sudden swarms the youth of Thebes and Argos engaged. Standards and bugles are in the rear, and the trumpets must needs follow to find the battle. So great waxes the conflict from so little bloodshed. Even so the wind gathers its earliest strength within the clouds, gentle as yet. It sways the leaves and the unprotected summits. But soon it has torn away the forest and laid the dark mountain bare to view. Come now, Pyrrhean sisters, it's of no far-off deeds we bid you tell. Sing of your country's wars, your own Ionia, for you beheld while Mars raged near, and the quills of Helicon shook at the blaring of Tyrrhenian bronze. The horse of Sidonian Paterelas, untrustworthy in battle, carries his rider, tearing at the reins, through the enemy's lines. And now he is free, so weary of his master's arm, when through his shoulder the spear of Tydeus flies, and pierces the youth's left thigh, and nails him, swooning, to his seat. Away he dashes, pinned to his dead lord, and bears him on, though no more he holds weapon or bridle. Even as a centaur, not yet bereft of both his lives, sinks on his own back in death. They vie with each other in the deadly work. In furious interchange, Hippomedon lays Sybaris low, Menicius, Pylian Periphas, Parthenopius Itis. Sybaris falls a victim to the reeking blade, fierce Periphas to the spear point, Itis to a treacherous arrow. Marvortian Hymus severs with a blow the neck of Inachian Canius. His eyes open wide, seek the trunk across the cloven wound, his spirit the head. Already Abas was spoiling him as he lay when caught by an Achaean shaft. He left fall in death his foeman's buckler and his own. Who persuaded you, Eunyas, to desert your Bacchic worship and the grove of a priest may never leave, and to change your Bromian frenzy? Whom could you make afraid? Pale ivy wreaths of Nyssa garland the weak texture of your shield, and a wile riband is fastened to your vine-wood javelin. Tresses hide his shoulders, and the down is yet growing on his cheeks. His corslet blushes, unwarlike, with threads of Tyrian dye. He wears bracelets upon his arms and embroidered sandals on his feet, and is garbed in linen folds. A smooth golden clasp bites with a tawny jasper stone his Taenarian cloak, whereon rattle the nimble bow case, and the bow and the hanging quivers of gold embroidered lynx's hide. Crazed by the god, he goes through the midst of thousands, and cries afar, "Stay your hands, these walls Apollo revealed by the good omen of Kira's heifer. Forbear, rocks came unwillingly of their own accord to form them. A sacred race are we. Jove is this city's son-in-law, and its father's son-in-law is Mars, Bacchus, and great Alcides, Heracles we truly call our children." Amid boasts so vain, fierce Capaneus meets him, a tall spear in his hand. And as at break of day a lion in his gloomy lair stirs up his fresh awoken fury, and spies from the grim cave a hind or bullock with yet unwarlike forehead, and leaps forth with joyous roar, though assailed by the spears of hunting bands, but he sees his prey and knows not of his wounds. So then did Capaneus exult in the unequal conflict, and poised for the throw the great weight of his cypress spear. Yet first, he cries, "Why, doomed one, do you affright our troops with womanly howls? Would that he for whom you rage is come himself to battle. Go, bawl that message to the Tyrian mothers." And therewith he flung the spear, which in its flight, as though no force could meet and stay it, scarce rang upon the shield, and already had passed clean through his back. His weapons fall, the gold resounds with long, choking sobs, blood streams forth and overflows his bosom. You are fallen, bold youth, you too, one favorite more of Aeonian Laius, are fallen. You, languid Ismarus, lamented with broken wands, you, Tmolus and fruitful Nyssa mourned, and Naxos of Theseus's fame, and Ganges, that in fear swore fealty to Theban orgies. Nor was Eteocles found a sluggard by the Argolic bands, but Polynice's sword, more sparing, shrank from his countrymen. Before the rest Amphiaraus shines preeminent, although already his horses fear the ground, and amid clouds of dust he upturns the indignant plain. Apollo sadly sheds a vain luster upon his servant, and makes his last hours glorious. His shield too and his helm he sets afire with starry splendors. Nor, Mars, were you slow to grant your brother that no human hand, no mortal weapon should have power to harm the seer, but that he should go to Dis sacred and venerable in death. In such wise, conscious himself of doom, he is borne into the thickest of the fray. The assurance of death gives him new strength. His limbs grow mightier and the sky more favorable. Nor even knew he so well to read the heavens had he but leisure. But valor, near the neighbor of death, turns his gaze away. He glows with an insatiable love of savage war and revels in his might, and his fiery soul exults. Is this he who so often alleviated the lot of man and made the fates powerless? How quickly changed from him who was skilled to follow the guidance of tripod and of bay, to salute Phoebus and learn the import of the birds in every cloud. Like some pestilence or adverse ray of baleful star, his sword offers up to his own shade a host innumerable. With a javelin he slays Phlegyas and proud Phyleus. With scythed chariot he mows down Clonus and Cremation. The one standing to fight him, the other he severs at the knee. With spear thrust Chromis and Iphinus and Sages and unshorn Geas and Lycoria, sacred to Phoebus, the last unwillingly. Already had he driven home the ashen strength of the spear when the falling crest revealed the fillet, with a stone Alcathus, to whom by the mares of Carystus was home and wife and his children who loved its shores. Long had he lived a poor searcher of the waters, earth played him false, and dying he praises the storms and winds and the more welcome dangers of the familiar sea. Long has Aesopian Hypsias beheld from far the slaughter of the scattered rout, and burned to stay the tide of battle, though he himself not less has put to flight Tyrinthian forces. But the sight of the augur made him heed the present carnage less, for his warlike spirit yearns. A dense phalanx of the foe bars his way, then proudly he makes ready a javelin, chosen from his father's banks, and first exclaims, "O bounteous lavisher of Aeonian streams, Asopus, yet renowned for the ashes of giants, give power to this right hand, your son and the oaken nursling of your river ask you. If you did strive with the father of the gods, I may despise Phoebus. All his armor will I sink in your waters, and the sad fillets from the augur's head." His father heard him, but Phoebus would not suffer him, fain though he was, to grant the prayer, and turns the blow aside upon Herses the charioteer. He falls, and the god himself takes up the straying reins, assuming the feigned shape of Haliacmon of Lerna. Then indeed no squadrons try to resist his fiery course, but flee in terror unalloyed. And in their panic they die a coward's death unwounded. It's doubtful to the view onward by the burden. So when a cloud-encompassed mountainside is loosened by the fresh storms of winter or by irresistible decay of age, it crashes down upon the plain, a fearful terror, and sweeps away in many a track of ruined fields, husbandmen and aged oaks, and at length its furious rush, exhausted, either scoops out a vale or bars a river in mid-course. Not otherwise does the chariot, burdened by the great warrior and the mighty god, drive furiously through many a scene of bloodshed. From his seat the Delian guides both reins and weapons and instructs his aim. He turns aside hostile darts and cheats the flying javelins of their fortune. Menalius on foot is overthrown, and Antiphus, no whit defended by his lofty steed, and Eetion, born of a nymph of Helicon, and Polites, ill-renowned for a brother's murder, and Lampus, who tried to defile the couch of the priestess Manto. Against him Phoebus with his own hand sped holy arrows. And now the horn-footed steeds snort at the corpses in alarm and probe the ground, and every wheel track runs over bodies and reddens deep with severed limbs. Some the remorseless axle grinds unconscious, but others, half dead from wounds and powerless to escape, see it as it draws nigh to crush them. Already the reins are wet with gore, the slippery care gives no foothold, blood clogs the wheels, and trampled entrails hinder the horse's hooves. Then the hero himself madly tears out darts, abandoned in the slain, and spears projecting from the midst of corpses. Ghosts shriek and pursue the chariot. At length, revealing to his servant all his godhead, Apollo said, "Use the light that is yours and put on eternal fame, while death irrevocable fears me in that your company. We are overcome. You know that the cruel fates unravel no threads. Depart, long-promised delight of Elysian peoples, you who are of a surety will never bend your neck to Creon's rule or lie exposed and barred from burial. The other, taking breath a while from the fight, makes answer, long knew I, Curanian father, that you were seated on my doomed chariot's trembling axle. Why such high honor to my hapless plight? How long will you delay the death that threatens me? Already I hear the flow of rapid Styx and the dark rivers of Dis and the triple baying of his noxious sentinel. Receive the honors you did bestow upon my head. Receive the laurels which may not be taken down to Erebus. Now, with my last words, if any gratitude be owed to you, prophet, here he depart, I commend to you, O Phoebus, my betrayed home and the punishment of my wicked spouse and my noble son's rage. Sad at heart, Apollo leapt down and turned to hide his tears. Then verily groaned the chariot and the horses, thus left desolate. Not otherwise in a blind hurricane at night, when the northwester blows, does a ship know that she will perish, so soon as the brethren of Therapnae have fled the siles of their sister's fire has doomed. And now little by little the earth began to shudder to its rending, and the surface to rock, and the dust to rise in thicker clouds. Already an infernal bellowing fills the plain. In alarm, they think it is the battle and noise of conflict and hasten in their steps. A shock far different hurls arms and warriors and marveling steeds to earth. Already the leafy summit are nodding, and the walls and Ismenus flees with all his banks exposed to view. Their wrath is abated. They fix their swaying weapons in the ground, or wandering meet and lean on their rocking spears, and start when they see each other's pallor. So when Bellona, scorning the deep, joins ships in battle on the sea, then should a kindly tempest befall, all look to their own safety, and another death bids all their swords be sheathed, and common fears make peace among them. Such was the appearance of the heaving combat on the plain. Whether the earth, laboring with imprisoned blasts, expelled the pent-up fury of the raging wind, or whether hidden waters ate away and wore down and sapped the crumbling soil, or the fabric of the rolling sky flung that way its weight, or Neptune's trident moved all the ocean and flung too vast a sea upon the shore, or whether that uproar was a tribute to the seer, or earth threatened the brothers, lo! In a gaping chasm the ground yawns, sheer and deep, and stars and shades feel mutual terror. Him the huge abyss engulfs, and swallows the horses as they try to leap across it. He drops neither reins nor weapons, but, just as he was, drove his unshaken chariot down to Tartarus, and as he sank, looked back at the heavens and groaned to see the plain meet above him, until a fainter shock joined once more the parted fields and shut out the daylight from Avernus. Oh, nerds, thank you so much for listening. As always, this is going to be short and sweet because, once again, I've been talking for over an hour straight and my voice is going. I love recording these. I really wish I could do 2 in a row, but then this happened. So here we are. Thank you all so much for listening. I'm thrilled we have these readings. I'm going to be trying to get to you guys as much fresh content as possible, while also getting this book out. So you can look forward to hearing more from Michaela, more Q&As, but I need your questions, so please do consider submitting literally anything. mythsbaby.com/questions. I mean, don't be weird, but anything. And otherwise, Let's Talk About Myths Baby is written and produced by me, Liv Albert. Michaela Pengowish is the Hermes to my Olympians, the producer. Select music by Luke Chaos. The podcast is part of the Memory Collective podcast network, which, again, for months I've been saying more is coming because it is, but it's also that I don't have time, and ADHD and executive dysfunction is real, so it's happening soon. Same with the newsletter. So You can sign up for that too, mythstv.com/newsletter. And one day I'll do it. The website's really almost done. Like, probably just like a week or two away. And then we're going to have merch and we're going to have stuff. And hopefully I'll find the time. It's going to be great. Thank you so much. I am Liv, and I love this shit.